What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the channel. Today we're going to be discussing two topics. We're going to be discussing the Seth Rollins story and this weird story that some people think is true and some people think is not true. Whatever. Let's get into the whole, is there or is there not a hiring freeze going on in WWE? There was a rumor going around that was tied to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, but it wasn't even I think it got blown out of proportion, and he's defended it, and he's pointed to the fact that there has not been any hires. It all comes down to this component. He is looking at it as common freaking sense. Vince McMahon, at a time where Vince McMahon returned and is exploring a company, and when you try to, he's exploring to sell the company. When you're trying to sell a company, what do? You try to make it look as profitable as possible. Therefore, you cut talent, you cut staff, or you don't hire more people, and you try to trim fat here and there to make the company look as big and profitable and as appealing as possible to a potential buyer. Dave Meltzer comes out and he reports that he had been told, and God only knows who he's been told by, because this is such a typical corporate thing, that there's no hiring freeze going on, and there hasn't been while our insane owner essentially is exploring to sell this joint. There's no what are y'all talking about? It's business as usual. We're in talks with significant performers. That was a direct quote from Meltzer's report. But it comes at a time where they couldn't land Brian Cage. I get that. But they couldn't land FTR. Okay, I guess I could get that. They've been there, and FTR likes the AEW schedule, and they kind of had a bad, end to their WB run. Okay, I can get that. Then you got Jay White, and there's no excuse. They screwed up. Why did they screw up? Jay White was 100%, nothing's 100%, 98% WWE bound. He had interest from AEW. He had interest from WB. But ironically, he did 2 matches with New Japan that wrote him out of the promotion. He lost a loser leaves Japan match and a loser leaves, New Japan match or what, with Eddie Kingston here in the United States. You wouldn't do that if you were going to AEW, which has a working relationship with New Japan. You could still go do business over there. And they, by the way, hold an annual joint promoted show. I just call that BS. I just call it BS. Anyways. Moving on, Seth Rollins. Interesting situation. There had been a rumor that Seth Rollins was, he stormed out of Monday Night Raw on the post-WrestleMania 39 edition of Raw. Let's take a step back. Seth Rollins has been continuously pushed as a top guy in WWE since his Shield days. That's been a decade. He's been pushed strongly as a top guy for a decade. His wife works for the company. He makes really, really great money and is not afraid to remind you of that. On this post-WrestleMania edition of Raw, he came out and he was going to do a promo in the ring. He had a mic in his hand. They went to commercial break. There was video of some fan where he had a discussion with a production member, was visibly upset by it. Once they came back from break, he didn't say a freaking word, had previously thrown down the mic and walked out of the ring. Okay. This was the same show that had creative changes made by Vince McMahon prior to the broadcast and during the broadcast. Freddie Prinze Jr. was on his podcast, Wrestling with Freddie, I believe the name of it is. And he was ringside for said show. And he recalled this situation. And he discussed this said situation. And Wrestling Inc. came out with a transcription of that and flipped the shit out of his words, in my opinion. He said that Rollins left the ring or he walked out of the freaking show. They spun it as he stormed out of the event. Right after he got done with the freaking promo segment, he grabbed his bags, he didn't change, he got directly into his car and he left. And oh, by the way, he didn't appear on Monday Night Raw this past Monday. And everybody blew this out of proportion. I think Freddie Prinze is going to come out on the next episode of his podcast and be like, y'all got taken out of context. I wasn't told. He never even said he was told. How the hell can he know that the man walked out of the venue if he's ringside and he hasn't been told that Rollins did that? Did Freddie Prinze, was he FaceTiming Rollins this entire time? Was he walking beside Rollins? If he wasn't told, how the hell does he know what he was doing backstage? Really taken out of context. It is what it is. But anyway, and I'm going to try not to botch this, the WRKD Wrestling Twitter account, Jesus, came out instead. Rollins has no plans to leave WWE. Nor should he. There's your rumor killer on Seth Rollins.